We open with a pirate, a metaphor, a personified representation of a concept so old and so original it may perhaps be recognized as myth. The pirate is held in a dark and abstract place, almost as fleeting as a thought. And here, the pirate meets a girl who, within the span of 2 pages, undergoes a great deal of silence and inner unrest. That is, until she musters up enough courage to creep closer and closer to the pirate and request a story. Marr. Tell me a story. Marr. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Neverland Book Club. Today we have a very special episode, or at least I like to believe it as a special one due to its topic of discussion. I have not posted a review here on this channel in many months. Yes, it's been that long. I found reviews a bit redundant since I normally discuss what I liked or disliked about a story during my wrap-up or TBR videos, but once in a while, you come across a story that demands to be read and reread and reread and discussed and appreciated and cried over and studied and analyzed and just overall loved. I've read many books in the short time I've spent on the book internet community so far, but none have truly made me feel the feelings I felt while reading this book right here, which I don't have a physical copy of because Hecate has borrowed it and she's going to also read it, but The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. Now, fair warning, there may be spoilers ahead. I'll try to keep them to a minimum since this book does have some satisfying reveals at its climax. But overall, I'd say this book is more of a comprehensive sensation while reading rather than a plot moving from point A to point B. And so, let's begin. I actually don't know where to begin. See, to begin at the beginning would denote the idea that I knew when the beginning is, or what, or who, or where the beginning is. You see, if I had to describe this book in one sentence, that sentence would be a failure to its true magnitude. But if one were to insist, Alice, but not Alice, someone else much older and male, never chased the rabbit down the rabbit hole representing missed opportunity, allowing fate and time to both play a choose-your-own-adventure video game in a subterranean underground library run by a secret society of book enthusiasts guarded by cats and bees and owls, and no one is when you expect them, and we are all stories written on discarded pieces of paper folded to look like stars. Also, what does a matcha green tea latte say about your personality? Because they're one of my guilty pleasures, and I think they taste like green in the best possible way. They're expensive, so I guess, yeah, they taste a little like money, but they're just good. I don't know. It's like that bitter of the matcha. It's the green tea, so it has that very earthy feeling, but creamy because it's a latte. I don't like to eat soap.
You're right, you just like the taste of it.
I enjoy lavender flavored things because I am female. The Starless Sea is Erin Morgenstern's second published book after The Night Circus, a title I currently own but have not read as of writing this review. Although now, after witnessing the absolute dreamlike prose and imaginative storytelling and characters filled with the utmost love, I can't imagine waiting very long before needing to be back in this woman's brilliant mind. After watching a quick interview with Morgenstern, she reveals she first had the idea for this novel based on a place, an underground secret library. That's the idea that came first, and the characters followed. And I'm honestly not sure if there is a correct formula for this kind of storytelling, but that is exactly what the book is about, storytelling. This book is a story that hyper-focuses on the love and devotion to story. However, the way the story is told is unconventional. Characters are introduced and reintroduced and revealed throughout time depending on where we are dancing with fate. This book plays with concepts in a way that makes your brain just smile. Just bring a burr. Even long after reading, the stories within this story stick with you. I don't know if it's just because it's the first of the stories we're introduced to in the book, but the pirate and the girl are one of my favorites. It's like a dream that you're barely, like you can feel it slipping, but it's there. It's... You know that feeling when you have a good dream and you can't remember the dream, but you remember the feeling? It's like that. That simple, minimalist notion of two characters silently sharing an atmosphere together for a single moment, it stops time. The world ceases to exist, and it is just a person and a place and that fateful M word, magic. Morgenstern also discusses where her books lie in genre, and although they have been categorized as magical realism, she likes to describe them as realistic magicism. Magicism? Magicism. Since the magic exists within reality, rendering anyone's everyday just that much more fantastical. The characters in this novel become the story. They embody the purpose. They live out the plot. They are destined to outlive the waking world on the page, and isn't that what we all wish to achieve in the end? The immortality of our story? The continuation of our minuscule purpose, even if we're not here to see it. If we die twice, once when our physical bodies leave the earth, and again when our name is said for the last time, the only true immortals are those we write about. And to find yourself in a character, in a book, without an author, without a publication, without a known history, well, that just hits the rabbit hole jackpot, doesn't it? And that, dear viewers, is the beginning of our boy, Zachary Ezra Rollins' story. A 24 to 25-year-old master's student studying video game narrative goes to his university library and stumbles upon a book. The book we're also currently reading. One of the stories happens to include his younger 11-year-old self looking into the rabbit hole. In this version, his rabbit hole is a painted door in the alley by his mother's fortune-telling shop. This missed opportunity of not opening the door is what triggers the rest of his life, the regret, the longing, the FOMO he feels after abandoning the opportunity, and the second chance that follows years later. For at the end of his small cameo in an otherwise random book, the words, "not yet," loom over him like a foreboding shadow, waiting to see the light. Those two words give him hope, give him the motivation to continue his own story, and open all of the doors he possibly can now. For your past decisions, your regrets, are what haunt your potential future, and the questions we ask ourselves can shape our chosen paths, which doors we choose to open, and which we will do anything to keep shut. Doors are used constantly throughout this narrative to represent choices, opportunities, people, places, you name it. Something new, something old, something magical. And never by accident. Time and fate are constant characters in all of our stories, and missed opportunities are just those two elements slightly missing one another in our narratives. Having those two concepts personified as either metaphors or actual characters represents possibility and adventure within us all. Even the moon herself is a character, nudging other characters in the right direction. The stars are represented as the stories themselves, the people who inhabit them, or the light upon which we use to read them. It's beautiful. The books within this book start to come to life in a dreamy-esque way, and we meet the characters in the books these characters are reading, which makes the stories more tangible within our minds. And if any of that makes sense, read it. It'll make sense. Or it won't, but it's beautiful nonetheless. This book was written with a love for reading, a love for writing, but above all, a love for stories. It takes pieces you may or may not recognize from other narratives and just sprinkles them throughout the chapters. Whether we as readers get the hints or not is up to us. The writing is lyrical, the prose are beautiful, and it is self-aware as a flowery thing. The places we go with the characters have their own personalities and atmospheres that play with one another to contrast the different mental environments we find our characters in. Love and subtle romance finds its way between characters, yet it is all the same story no matter who is falling for whom. Even the antagonists are woven into their stories without being complete villains depending on where we are in time and fate. They have a purpose, always. As with most stories, nothing is without purpose. All of the characters grow apart and come together throughout their timelines and serve their purpose in their respective stories. And all stories must come to an end. In a way, this book is about accepting endings and not being afraid of them. The main antagonist tried to prevent the end from progressing, tried to make the story stay stagnant, and failed. Because of course they failed. Death and endings are ever graciously inevitable. It is precisely what makes the honey taste so sweet. You'll get it when you read it. This was an overall love letter to the reader, I felt, personally. This book was meant to be read in its physical form. It felt personal, like it was written just for me, like the entire thing was simply a letter written by someone I knew, and we were simply keeping correspondence. Between the honey, the rabbits, the painted doors, the owls and cats and bees, and above all, the pirate, I was in love on page 1. One of the first things we request as children after our basic human needs are met, after the day is done and we are ready for the night, the one thing we ask of our parents before we drift off to sleep, the same request the girl asked of the pirate the night before he was set to meet the gallows. Tell me a story. Erin Morgenstern gave us what our child selves needed as adults, so we may now appreciate the story for its beginning, its middle, and its end. Perhaps I am being overindulgent with this review, and I make no apologies for it. This is a book you could happily get lost in and never want to be found. I want to sit in these emotions and go back to the harbor and just stay there forever. I had a genuine book hangover. I couldn't imagine reading another book until I had fully sat with these feelings and let them wash over me entirely before moving on. It almost feels like grieving. God, I'm dramatic. But this is it. This is why we read. To grieve. If you haven't guessed it yet, I do recommend this book to anyone, to everyone. I want everyone to read it, and I want no one to read it, so I may selfishly keep it all to myself, but that's not proper book etiquette, which is why I'm telling you about it so bleh. Although I do recommend it to everyone, I am fully aware that not everyone will enjoy it. Not everyone will get it. Some people despise flowery writing. Some people think of sweet prose as embellishment where none is needed, and I simply disagree. If you can make life a little more sweet in any aspect possible, by all means, enjoy it. That includes descriptions of the mundane. I want a sea of honey described in such abundant detail I can taste it. I want the painted doors so detailed I can touch it. I want it all. But some minds work differently, and such things are not needed for enjoyment. I understand that, and I also don't. But if you're like me and you appreciate the poetry in some narrative, then yes, this book is for you. I'm just not sure which copy you should get because from what I've seen, none are very good. I wanted the paperback because I love a good paperback, but the one I have came with this plastic film over it that started peeling immediately, so I don't recommend that one. And I don't like the cover of the hardback either. Too simple for the amount of story that's inside, but I'll leave that decision up to you. Definitely get a hard copy though. No audiobook, no ebook, Kindle version, no. No, 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 no. It has to be physical copy. 5 stars. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the stars, even though it's starless. It's starless because it's a subterranean, it's a sea inside the earth, so it's a starless sea. I was not aware that Erin Morgenstern wrote The Night Circus before I started reading The Starless Sea, but if you've seen our fall book haul unboxing video, by now you know that it was waiting patiently on my shelf and I will get to it as soon as possible. Maybe today. Maybe I finished reading it already. I haven't. Right, I haven't as of now, but maybe by the time this is up, I have finished. Possibly. Alright, that's all I have for you today, dear viewers. Be sure to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you're not. Don't forget to check out our Patreon. We have some extra content going to be posted there very soon. If you want quicker updates as to what we're up to, be sure to text Book Club to this number here, which will also be listed below. And lastly, don't forget to check out Heartbeat to join our Discord. Okay, today's shout out goes to Christy Linsdell. I have taken your advice and am now reading the 3rd book in the BOOKCLUB trilogy. Actually, I finished this and it was in my wrap-up. I wrote this a while ago. And I did mention that I liked that one much better than the 2nd book, and I do hope you enjoy The Stardust Thief. I still think that one did an excellent job. Alright, I'm off to go cry myself to sleep for the 4th night in a row over this book. Stay lost, keep reading, and remember, no story ever truly ends as long as it's told. Goodbye. Also, the way she writes cats is just so accurate and so cute. The heart in the box thing was taken straight out of Pirates of the Caribbean, and I am not mad. Cries. I'm not in a crying mood right now, but